Hello everybody. Today we're going to be reading from Ephesians chapter 2, From Death to Life is the title, and starting with verse 1. And you were dead in your trespasses and sins, in which you formerly walked according to the age of this world, and according to the prince of the power of the air, the spirit who now works in the sons of disobedience. Among them we all also once lived in the lust of our flesh, doing the desires of the flesh and of the mind, and we were by nature children of wrath, even as the rest. So we see here Paul's referring to our time, or the time of the Ephesians, where they lived their lives in the flesh. They lived their lives totally for themselves. They lived for self-gratification, self-satisfaction, and in all fairness, they probably didn't know any different. And some of us who became Christians later in life and lived a significant time of not being a Christian, like myself, I didn't become a Christian until I was 20. So for a number of years, I lived according to the satisfaction of the flesh and the desires of the flesh and sin. Okay? And Paul refers to us as being dead in our trespasses and sins, in which we formerly or previously walked according to the age of this world. The age of this world is the attitude of this world. It's the way the world is, you know. The age of this world would be the age we live in now, with all the corruption, sinfulness, wokeness, and general attitude of do as thou wilt. Okay, which actually is the first commandment in the Satanic Bible by Anton LaVey, who wrote the Satanic Bible. With the 10 commandments there, number 1 commandment as Satanist is to do as you will, do as you want. And that attitude today is still around us and around our children and family and friends, which says, you do what you want, you get what you can out of life, and don't worry about anybody else. Okay? Don't consider what other people are thinking. Don't consider other people's feelings. Don't worry about them. You just get on with your life, and you just squeeze it for all it's worth, you know. And if people get hurt, if other people get hurt, that's their problem. If they get upset, that's their problem. It's a very anarchist attitude and narcissistic, very self-centered attitude to have. Okay, so we see where it says that we previously formerly walked according to the age of this world, according to the prince of the power of the air. Now, the prince of the power of the air is one of the names for Satan. He has power over the air. Now, I don't mean winds and tornadoes and things like that, okay? But he has power over the air. He can affect the air above our heads. And some people, they do have a point. They can say he can affect the airwaves in the sense that he'll affect media and stuff like that, radio. And so all that information that's going into our minds from the radio, from the media, from TV, internet, etc., will be used to influence our minds into walking in disobedience, as it says. The spirit who now works in the sons of disobedience, or another translation would say the children of disobedience. There is this, that the age that we're living in wants us to live in disobedience towards God. It wants us to do everything we can to break the commandments of God, to break the rules of God. These rules and commandments that God has put in place are there for our protection. God is a father. He is our father. And so as a heavenly parent, he puts these things into place to say, don't do this because that will harm you. Don't go there, that is dangerous. And sometimes we will think, oh, well, I'm okay, I'll be all right. And we think that we can actually outthink God. We think that our intelligence can trump God and that our own ability to look after ourselves is greater than the ability of God to look after us. And sometimes children will think that of parents as well. Well, my parents, what do they know? My parents think they know everything. I'll be all right, because we have confidence in our own selves to do these things. Now, it's okay to have a level of independence and bravery, okay, and sense of adventure. But if a fence says that it's electrified, do not touch, then use your common sense. There's a warning there, don't touch it. But it's naturally, disobedience is bound in the heart of a child, it says in the Proverbs, okay? And the rod will drive it far from him. Discipline will drive disobedience from a child. And so we need to learn obedience through discipline. And discipline is self-control, okay? But it is in our nature. It is in our nature to be disobedient. Verse 3, among them we also once lived in the lusts of our flesh, doing the desires of the flesh and of the mind, and we were by nature children of wrath, even as the rest. See, people are not born, when we're born into this earth, we're born innocent, but the sin that is in our flesh is just waiting to pounce on us, as it were. It's waiting to take over. And children, very young, babies, infants, and even young children, and wherever the age of accountability may be, of when a child becomes accountable for his actions of knowledge of good and evil, wherever that may be, a child is innocent. And so I'm bold enough to say, of my knowledge from the Bible, and over 42 verses in the Bible that I've studied personally confirm this, that babies and children will go to heaven, even if they're not baptised, or if they're baptised or not, whether they're brought up in a Christian family or not. Okay, they are innocent as children. But the nature of wrath, the nature of sin, is waiting to take them as they get older. And so that's our job, to teach and train them in the way they should go. But God, being rich in his mercy, because of his great love with which he loved us, even when we were dead in sins, he made us alive together with Christ. By grace, or by undeserved favour, you have been saved. And he raised us up and seated us together in the heavenly places in Jesus Christ, so that in the coming ages he might show the surpassing riches of his grace in kindness towards us in Jesus Christ. God was rich in his mercy, even though we were children of wrath, even though we were sinful, even though we rebelled against God, and even at times we still break his commandments and still get into sin. His love for us, his mercy for us is so great that even when we were not living for him, even when we was not obeying him, the sacrifice of Christ was already committed, was already done. As far as he was concerned, he wasn't saying, I'm going to wait until you become a good enough person and then I'll accept you and receive you. He's saying, come to me now in all your sin, and your sins will be washed away. You'll become a new person, a new creation, as 2 Corinthians 5:17 says. You'll become born again. And so many people try to become good to become a Christian, but you can't become good to become a Christian. You become a Christian, and then through becoming a Christian, God working through us and in us will then make us a better person, a more spiritually stronger, more spiritually advanced person, and have that faith and love of God in us. It says that he raised us up and seated us together in the heavenly places in Jesus Christ. Spiritually speaking, when Jesus was raised from the dead and set at the right hand of God and was given all that power and authority, he raised us up with him. We share in the same power and authority that Christ has. We have the same power and authority to cast out devils, to heal the sick, and to do the works of God. But that is dependent also, as Jesus was dependent on the Father. We have this authority and power of being seated in this heavenly position, okay, only according to the will of God the Father. And so with Jesus, when he went around and he performed miracles and healed people and cast out demons, he didn't just do it to every single person he came across. And many times he didn't do anything, for some people, he didn't do anything for them. He didn't heal them, and he just left them to it. And he says himself that unless the Father shows him, he cannot do it. And so with us, even though as born-again Christians we have this power and authority, that authority and power that Jesus has, he is given to us to share with him through his name. We can't just off our own back go around and say, well, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the local hospital, and because I have the same power and authority that Jesus had or has, then I'm going to go in that hospital and I'm going to heal every single person in there, because that doesn't work. It's never worked. There's nothing in history that records such an event ever happening even once, let alone a number of times. So we have to be sensitive. The power belongs to God, the authority belongs to God. We walk in his power and in his authority to pray for the sick, to work the works of God, and to work in his power only when he tells us, go and do it. Okay? We can't just do it off our own back. We have to do it under his authority, under his guidance. It goes on to say, so that in verse 7, so that in the coming ages he might show the surpassing riches of his grace and kindness towards us. You know, it's as time goes on, as you're a Christian, as I'm a Christian, we look back on our lives and think, do you know something? Wow, God was so good to me in that time. He really helped me through that. I could not have come through that without him. If he hadn't have answered my prayers, we would have been desolate. We could have been homeless. We could have, people could have been, just had a terrible time, and it just escapes. Just words are beyond me right now, because there's so much to say. You have your own story. I have my own story, and you can look at your life. I can look at mine and list all these things and say, how surpassing or how overwhelming. When something surpasses, it means it takes it over. So if you imagine two cars going together, when a car is surpassing, it's passing past that other car, so it's overtaking it. And when we go in life, this is us going in life, then God comes alongside, and then when he sees something in our future or something that we're going to need help with, like before we even get there, he'll surpass it. And he'll say, got it. I've taken care of that situation. I've got it. You'll catch up. And when you catch up, you'll have it as well. So he works these things in our future. He's already there ahead of us. He's beyond time and space. He's, if it's possible with time travel, we'd be in the past, present and future. Wherever you went, he would be there. If you was to go in our past, if you was to go in the past far enough, we wouldn't exist. Okay, we wouldn't be here if you went 100 years in the past. But wherever you go with God, he is there, eternal and ever present. It says in verse 8, for by grace you have been saved, or by undeserved favour. We did not do anything to earn it. We done it because of his grace, his favour. You have been saved through faith. We get saved through faith. Faith means trust. To trust in God. To trust in God means I don't have all the answers. I don't know everything about God. I don't understand how he did this. I don't understand that. All I know is right now I choose to trust God with only a couple of answers to these questions, and based on that little mustard seed of faith, grain of mustard seed of faith, I trust in him, and therefore that's enough. So I say, my simple prayer when I become a Christian was, God, if you're there, I'll become a Christian if you save my son's life. God, help me. If you're there, help me. I wasn't even sure. But God didn't say, well, sorry, but unless you don't believe in me, I'm not going to do anything. He was like, look, I can use that. I can use that grain of mustard seed of faith. The fact is that you even said, if I'm there, if I'd have said, you're not there, then that's absolute no faith. But if sometimes can be a question of like, I do believe, but I'm having doubts. And I did believe God was real. But I had doubts in my mind because my situation and circumstances were so difficult and so overwhelming in my mind. And it takes me back to a situation in the Bible where Jesus was speaking to a man called Jairus. And Jesus said, I'm going to come and heal your daughter. And Jairus responded and replied to Jesus by saying, Lord, I believe, help my unbelief. He said, Lord, I believe, help my unbelief. Now that sounds like a contradiction. He's saying, one minute he's saying, I believe, but I don't believe. But no, if you look at that closely and see it for what it is, he's saying, from my heart I believe, but in my mind I've got unbelief. So you can have faith in your heart, you can trust God and believe God in your heart, and have your mind just filled with unbelief and doubt, and oh, this ain't going to happen, that's not going to happen, and God won't do this and God won't do that. And you can still, God will still answer your prayers. God will still draw close to you. So I'm not concerned what's going on in your head. Because Jesus didn't say to Jairus, well, I'm sorry, but you believe in your heart but not in your head. You need to get everything together. You need to believe in your mind as well as your heart, otherwise you're not going to get results. As if it's some kind of formula. But no, that was enough. God looked at the heart, saw the faith, answered, and just surpassed and passed by all the doubt in the mind. For by grace you have been saved through faith, and this is not of yourselves. It is the gift of God, not of works, so that no one should boast. And so we see there that we don't become Christians or get saved and forgiven by our works, by the good deeds that we do. It is a gift of God. A gift is something that you receive for nothing. You receive a gift as a love, as a gesture of love. When it's our birthday, we get given a gift by those who love us, or even at least like us. And so it is a gift. We haven't done anything to deserve it. It's just simply our birthday. This is your birthday, and this is your present. And so therefore it says not of works, so no one should boast. And so we can't walk around saying, oh, well, I'm right with God. I'm the righteousness of God. I'm a Christian because I have done this, and I've done that, and I've done all this list of things. Okay? I'm a good person because I do all these things. I go to church, read the Bible, pray, do charity work, and all the rest of it. No, that's not why you're a good person. You're a good person because you have God in your life. God has made you a good person. And don't get me wrong, there are some people, there's loads of people out there who, before they become a Christian, they're good people. Okay, now you notice I do this little quote. It's because the Bible, what the Bible calls good and what we call good is completely different. Completely different. To us, a person can do a good thing, about 5 good things and 20 bad things, and they can still be considered a good person. Whereas the Bible is more absolute on the subject, and so a good person will do good things. But the goodness that God gives us is divine, whereas the goodness that we manifest is of an earthly origin and is based on works and good deeds. So yes, there are good, nice, good people out there, but it's not the God kind of good, okay? And we need to be born again. We need to give our lives to Christ in order to become that person. Verse 10 says, for we are his workmanship. We are created in Jesus Christ for good works, which God prepared beforehand, so that we should walk in them. And so as new people, as a new creation, we're created to do good works. We're designed as Christians to do good works. It should be a natural thing for us to want around going around doing good. It's not natural for a person who's a Christian to want to go around doing bad. So one of the questions I would have is, if a person says they're a Christian and they have no desire to do good, but they have desire to do bad, that's not a good sign. They should want to do good, okay? Bad things happen. Sometimes we do bad things. But in general, we are not trying to go out of our way to do bad things. We're trying to go out of our way to do good things, because as it says here, God has prepared beforehand that we should walk in doing good. Okay, I'm going to stop there because that was only half of chapter 2, but there was a lot to take from that, and it's coming up to 20 minutes now. So I just want to leave you to process that and digest that. We're going to come back in the next video for part 2. Okay, so we'll pick up from there, but that'll give us plenty of time to think about what we've learned. Okay, well, God bless you. Thanks for joining me, and share this video with those who will be blessed by it, and I'll see you in the next video. In Jesus' name.